Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy to have you guys here. In this video, we're going to be talking about how you can study efficiently and how to find the perfect revision method for you, coming from someone who went from an E to an A star within 3 months. Let's split this up into parts. We're going to first talk about study techniques. Then we're going to talk about study schedule. Thirdly, how to find the perfect resource that suits everything that you need. And lastly, how to get prepared for exams, including what to do on the exam day. Okay, number one, we're going to talk about the study techniques. So the first thing that you need to do in order to know which revision techniques work best for you is to know what type of learner you are first. The type of learner is split into 4 parts. There's the visual learner, auditory learner, kinesthetics learner, and reading or writing learner. So for me personally, I'm more of a visual with kinesthetics type of learner. The visual type of learner is people who are able to see like diagrams, charts, they work better for them. For me personally, I figured out that I'm a visual learner because I love reading books, and every time I read books, I can see the images in my head. I'm more of an imaginative person, I would say. So looking like annotations, looking at animations, they work very, very well for me. Auditory is for the type of people that would just sit there and listen to people and understand a bunch of things. That is not me. There's kinesthetics learner, which is where role playing comes into play. So trying to it's more hands-on, more physical. You have to do it yourself for you to understand what's actually happening. And the last one is reading or writing. I think that one's a bit self-explanatory, but the more you read, the more you understand. You can digest pieces of text a lot better than others. For visual learners, like I said before, visuals work better for us. So annotations, animations, they work very well for us. But something that you can do if you're a visual learner is to do more of making mind maps, making flow charts, flashcards. These are better for you than the other types of revision methods. For example, just highlighting your notes and then writing it out. That would be the worst thing that you can do. That was the worst thing I did. I used to study 15 hours a day, and all I did was just copy what was in the textbook into my notebook, and it was a waste of time, honestly. I usually pair this with my photographic memory. If you haven't seen my video on how to have a photographic memory, I will link it in the description below so that you can have a look at that as well and train your photographic memory. Another thing as well, like I said, animations work really well. So watching educational videos with animations is super, super helpful. I like watching for biology, for example, Amoeba Sisters. They have a lot of animations for a bunch of their work. It really helps me to absorb everything that's happening when it's animated. Visual learners also work really well with colors. So make sure that whenever you're writing your notes, making flashcards, whatever it is, always use different colors. Like for example, for me, I have these highlighters. So I have different color highlighters so that I can highlight my pens, sorry, not my pens, but my notes in different colors. I highlight each mind map in different colors. I make different parts to every line in different colors. I'll show you an example right here. For the auditory learners, you guys work well with listening to other people. So recording lectures or recording study materials and listening to them again would work well for you. Participating in group discussions is also super good for auditory learners, because what's going to happen is that you're going to hear other people's ideas on the same topic that you're learning. Everybody has their own conception of this certain topic that you're learning. And when you're talking about it with each other, the more you discuss about it, the more you can see other points of views about it, the more you will understand. Auditory learners also really work well with mnemonics. So instead of saying potassium, sodium, lithium for your reactivity series, you can combine it all and say the symbols instead and say kanali chamagalzan and then continue on, and you can see how that goes. It kind of flows. Make a rap if you have to, make a song, make a rap, make a rhyme, whatever it is, it will work well for you. Using the Feynman technique will probably work really well for you if you're an auditory learner, because the Feynman technique involves you saying it out loud, whatever you've learned, regurgitate it and say it out loud and see if there are any gaps in your understanding. If there's any gaps, then go back, relearn it again, and then say it out loud again. Saying things out loud, teaching other people, that works well for you. For kinesthetics learners, since you're more hands-on, you're more of if I see it, I understand it type of person, then the best thing that you can do is to conduct experiments. If you conduct the experiments, especially if it's something that you can easily do, like just throwing a ball, then you can easily see what's actually happening in real life, and you can image that in your mind whenever you're doing questions similar to it, basically, or whenever you're learning the topic again. So another thing for kinesthetic learners is that you also should take a lot of breaks, because if you don't take a lot of breaks, you will firstly burn out really easily, and secondly, it gets too overwhelming. You can't really picture it in your mind. Engaging in physical activity is super helpful for kinesthetic learners, because as a kinesthetic learner, again, you're very hands-on, you're very physical. If you do more physical activity, a lot of the times you actually figure things out while you are working out. So relating things to your real life is really good for kinesthetic learners. Basically just trying to like put whatever is in your mind into a physical thing. That's basically what kinesthetic learners are gonna work well with. Role-playing scenarios, super important, similar to the Feynman technique in a sense, because you're trying to like role play as a teacher and try to role play this part. I like to imagine like enzyme substrate complex, the breaking down or digestion of substrates is kind of like when you're cooking. So the enzymes would be like the knife and the substrate will be the ingredients, for example. So when you're cutting down your ingredients, it's like the enzyme is cutting down the substrate. The substrate will be broken down, but the enzyme will not be used up, just like your knife doesn't get used up. It's just staying the same. You can use it again. For reading and writing learners, you need to write summaries or create outlines of key concepts. I would say that this is the one that I never really use. I'm not very good with like reading or writing. Rewriting your notes in your own words to reinforce understanding using the method of loci would be helpful for you here. Making use of textbooks, articles, journals, books, just a lot of reading in general is really good for you if you're a reading and writing type of person. You're more likely to understand the topic if you know it in depth. So now that you figured out what type of learner you are and what type of study techniques can work for you, it's now time for you to think about how you can make it effective. So the best way to make your study techniques effective is if you combine a bunch of these together. For me, for example, I combine the visual learning, auditory learning, and kinesthetic learning together, even though I'm mainly a visual learner. I combine all the techniques that I've learned from all three and put it into one, and that's what I do every single day, and that is how I went from an E to an A star, kind of immediately. Number 2, we're going to talk about how to make the perfect study schedule. In order to do this, you need to firstly set SMART goals. SMART is an abbreviation, and the abbreviation of SMART is for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So you need to make achievable goals that you can achieve within a certain time frame. For me personally, I always give myself 2 weeks contingency. Always underestimate yourself instead of overestimating yourself, because if you underestimate yourself, it makes everything a lot simpler. It's not as stressful as if you were like within a certain time bound, basically. By setting specific goals, you can do this by looking at your syllabus and highlighting the stuff that you are still struggling with and the stuff that you are doing well with. Most students don't actually know what they're good and what they're not good at. They kind of overestimate themselves or underestimate themselves. So the best way to do this is to do a past paper for paper 1, paper 2, paper 3, how many papers you have. Just do past papers and see which topics you struggled with the most. Then go back to your syllabus, highlight it in red, amber, green. Red for the stuff that you really struggle with, amber is for the stuff that you kind of struggle with, and green is for the stuff that you could regurgitate quite easily. From here, to make your study schedule, use the 2-3-5-7 calendar method. So basically, with your 2-3-5-7 method, you're going to be learning red, amber, green all together in one day, followed by the next time you study it will just be red and amber, and then the next time you study it will just be red, and then cycle it again. Go back to red, amber, green, red, amber, red, just like that. Ideally, you should be going over your flashcards every single day, and at this point, you should be doing like topic questions as well. Number 3, let's talk about the resources that are really good for you. So there's a bunch of resources out there. You guys are so lucky, actually. Back then, I didn't have these amounts of resources that you do now, but I'm going to split it up into free and paid resources. And I'm going to talk about the ones that I personally use. If you guys have more that you guys use, do comment below and let me know, because I will try them out, whether it's paid or not. So I know that there's a bunch. We're going to start with the paid ones first. I'm going to start with the ones that I don't use, but a lot of people have talked about. So there's Cognito. I think that is paid. but I think there's like a free section as well. And then people use Uplearn as well. Now for the parts that I actually use myself and do pay for myself is Save My Exams and then Maths Made Easy as well. Maths Made Easy, however, is only for GCSE students, but they do have it for every subject, including English, while a lot of others don't really have English. They also have combined science. Save My Exams also have combined science. They have English, they have geography, they have history, they have all of those as well. So those are my paid ones. And then the other ones that I use that are free include Znotes, Physics and Maths Tutor, Free Science Lessons. That's a YouTube video. I've never used that, but I know that a lot of people do and they all love it. So definitely have a check out on that. And then just TikTok in general, there's a bunch of it. Like I always make videos on studying as well on my TikTok, things like that. There's so much resources out there. You just have to make sure that you utilize them properly. What you want to do is to take the summarized notes from them, especially if you can find any with summarized notes. So take the summarized notes out and then use those summarized notes and add your own notes to it. Don't make your notes from scratch. Use this, turn them into flashcards, whatever it is, just don't make your notes from scratch. Number 4 is talking about exam preparation. So when you are about to do your exam, the days leading up to it are gonna be the most nervous you're gonna be, the most anxious you will be. So before the exam, I always have a ritual that I do. This ritual does nothing except for the fact that it gives me a routine that I can do every time I'm having an exam. And then when I do this routine, it puts me into the mindset of an exam, basically. First thing I do is I dress up in the morning. I literally will put on makeup I take a lot of time on my makeup that day. I do my hair, I curl my hair, I dress up, I put on nice clothes, whatever. I basically feel comfortable, but also I feel good in myself as well. I do anything that will make me feel confident that day. If you are spiritual, then obviously you can also pray, things like that. I do pray before the exam as well. It's just something that I've done throughout my life and I've been doing it to this day. You can do your journaling, you can script. Just have a routine that you can start with before the exam starts. So you can do this in the morning of the exam, the night before the exam, the week before the exam, it doesn't matter. Going to the exam, make sure you are treating yourself very well. Like for me, I would take an Uber to uni. I don't walk to uni on the day of my exam, or I get my boyfriend's dad to take me to uni, something like that. Just anything that will make me as comfortable as possible. And I don't do any revision within the first hours of me waking up or anything like that. I only read through my notes an hour before the actual exam. So this helps me to like settle down first, relax a little bit, and then get into the mindset of having an exam. In the exam hall, the first thing that you need to do is to convince yourself that you are somebody else. So convince yourself that you are the smartest person that you know. Convince yourself that you are able to do this, that everything's gonna be so easy, blah, blah, blah. For me personally, I think about like the smartest person I know, whether it's fictional or not. The recent one was that I was watching The Queen's Gambit, so I was just looking at Elizabeth Harmon, and obviously we know she's a genius. So I was just telling myself like, I'm Elizabeth Harmon, I'm Elizabeth Harmon. As soon as the invigilator says, okay, you can open the paper and start your exam, don't start the exam. Sit there first, wait for everybody else to start, because you're gonna hear them flipping the paper, blah, blah, blah. That's when you're the most nervous. And I'm telling you this because this worked for me and this worked for a bunch of other people that has DM'd me so far. They have gotten back to me and said this works. So what you need to do is to sit there, don't do anything, and just let them flip the pages, because you will be the most nervous here. And when you are nervous, you're gonna blank out almost immediately. So just sit there, let the nerves pass. It's not gonna pass completely, it's gonna pass a little bit, and just wait for that little bit to sink in. And then write your name. And then after you're done with writing your name, go all the way to the back page of the past paper, the paper itself, and then write everything that you remember. So write formulas that you remember, flow charts that you constantly forget. For example, if you're doing chemistry, the organic chemistry flow chart, write it in the back. Any color changes from ion, flame color, things like that, write it in the back. Whatever you remember that you usually forget, write it first in the back. And this will save you so much time during the exam. Because when you are during the exam, when you go blank, you're gonna sit there and be like, oh my God, I can't remember it. But you don't need to have that, because you already wrote it in the back. So when you get that moment, you're like, oh yeah, I actually already wrote it at the start of the exam. So go all the way back to your back page, see what you wrote, and your answer is there. it literally will save you so much time. And I'm telling you, this works so well, and it will save you so much time, and you will do well in your exam because of this. You will come out feeling so happy. But yeah, aside from that, that is how you can study efficiently and how to get the best optimum grades in your exam. And I love you guys. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.